The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom, silencing the murmurs of the elite crowd. In the heart of New York City's most opulent wedding venue, overlooking the glittering skyline from the 50th floor of the Empire State Building replica hall, Alexander Harrington stood frozen at the altar, his smug grin evaporating like mist in the morning sun. His bride-to-be, the stunning socialite Victoria Langford, clutched her bouquet tighter, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the stems. All eyes turned to the entrance, where a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom had just pulled up outside the glass doors, its engine purring like a contented lion. Out stepped Elena Vasquez, his ex-wife, the woman he'd invited as a cruel joke, expecting her to slink in ragged and broken. But she wasn't alone. Flanking her were three identical little boys, each in tailored suits, the dark curls bouncing as they held her hands. The triplets, his triplets, and in that moment, Alexander's world of wealth and deceit crumbled, revealing the man he'd truly become, a fool who had underestimated the power of a woman's unbreakable spirit. Chapter 1. The Bitter Divorce. It all began 5 years earlier in the bustling streets of Brooklyn, where dreams clashed with reality like taxis in rush hour. Elena Vasquez, a 25-year-old immigrant from a small town in Texas, had met Alexander Harrington at a charity gala she was waitressing. He was the heir to Harrington Enterprises, a multi-million-dollar real estate firm that built skyscrapers across the East Coast. Tall, charming, with eyes like polished emeralds and a smile that could seal deals worth billions, Alexander swept Elena off her feet. She was beautiful, with olive skin, cascading black hair, and a laugh that lit up rooms. But more than that, she was kind, fiercely so, volunteering at local shelters and dreaming of opening her own community center for underprivileged kids. Their whirlwind romance led to a lavish wedding in the Hamptons, but cracks appeared almost immediately. Alexander's family never accepted Elena. His mother, the formidable Beatrice Harrington, sneered at her background, whispering that she was nothing more than a gold digger. Alexander, caught between loyalty and love, began to change. Late nights at the office turned into excuses, and his affection waned as business pressures mounted. Elena discovered she was pregnant, not with one child, but 3. Triplets. The news should have been joyous, but Alexander saw it as a burden. How are we supposed to manage this? He'd snapped one evening in their penthouse overlooking Central Park. I have deals closing in Dubai, Elena. This is too much. The arguments escalated. Elena wanted a family life grounded in love and simplicity. Alexander craved the spotlight, the power lunches, the arm candy that fit his rising status. When the triplets, Lucas, Matteo, and Nico, were born prematurely, Elena spent weeks in the NICU, holding their tiny hands, whispering promises of a better world. Alexander visited sporadically, more concerned with stock fluctuations than diaper changes. The final blow came when Elena overheard him on a call with his lawyer. She's holding me back. File the papers. Make it quick. The divorce was brutal. Alexander's high-powered attorneys painted Elena as unstable, unfit, even though she'd been the one sacrificing her dreams to support him. He fought for full custody, but Elena, with a pro bono lawyer from a women's shelter, managed to secure joint custody, barely. Alexander walked away with the penthouse, the cars, the bank accounts. Elena was left with a small settlement, enough for a tiny apartment in Queens, and the boys for half the time. You'll never make it without me, he sneered as he signed the papers. You'll be begging on the streets. But Elena didn't beg. She burned. That fire ignited something deep within her, a resolve forged in the pain of betrayal. She enrolled in night classes at NYU, studying business and entrepreneurship while working 2 jobs, days at a coffee shop, nights as a freelance graphic designer. The triplets were her anchors, the giggles pulling her through sleepless nights. Lucas, the eldest by 2 minutes, was the thinker, always asking, why? Matteo was the adventurer, climbing everything in sight. Nico, the quiet one, had a smile that melted hearts. They were her world, and she vowed they'd never know the sting of their father's rejection. Chapter 2. Rising from the Ashes. 2 years post-divorce, Elena's life was a whirlwind of diaper bags and deadlines. Queens wasn't glamorous, but it was real, neighbors who shared meals, parks where the boys could run free. She launched her first venture, Little Sparks, an online platform connecting low-income families with educational resources. It started small, a website she built herself using free tools and late-night coding tutorials. But word spread. A viral post on social media about her story, a single mom of triplets turning pain into purpose, caught the eye of a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. Ms. Vasquez, your platform has heart, said Marcus Reed during their Zoom call. He was a self-made billionaire, having bootstrapped his way from Detroit's streets to tech stardom. But more than that, it has potential. Let's scale it. With a seed investment of $500,000, Elena moved operations to a small office in Manhattan's startup district. She hired a team, mostly single parents like herself, and expanded Little Sparks into an app. Features included free tutoring matches, scholarship alerts, and community forums. By year 3, it had 1 million users. Elena's story made headlines. From divorce to dominance, how one mom built an empire. Forbes featured her in their 30 under 30 inches list. But success came with shadows. Alexander, now engaged to Victoria, a model turned influencer with a pedigree that matched his family's expectations, watched from afar. Jealousy festered. He reduced his child support payments, claiming business losses, forcing Elena to fight in court again. The challenges were relentless. One night, after a grueling day pitching to investors, Elena came home to find Lucas feverish, Mateo with a scraped knee from playground rockhousing, and Nico crying for Daddy. Alexander had promised a visit but cancelled last minute for a networking event. Elena held them close, tears streaming. We're enough, she whispered. We're more than enough. That moment fueled her. She partnered with major corporations for sponsorships, Google for tech grants, Walmart for supply donations. Little Sparks went national, opening physical centers in underserved cities like Detroit, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Yet, personal demons lingered. Elena dated sporadically, but trust was shattered. A kind colleague, Javier, a software engineer on her team, showed interest. He was patient, helping with the boys' homework, sharing stories of his own immigrant roots from Mexico. But Elena hesitated. What if I break again? She confided to her best friend, Maria, over coffee in a bustling Brooklyn cafe. Maria, who had been with her through the divorce, squeezed her hand. You're not broken, Elena. You're rebuilt, stronger. Chapter 3. The Invitation. The wedding invitation arrived like a poisoned arrow. Gold embossed on thick cardstock, it read, Alexander Harrington and Victoria Langford request the honor of your presence. Elena stared at it in her sleek office, the Manhattan skyline mocking her from the window. Why invite her? The boys were flower boys in the ceremony. Alexander's way of maintaining the facade of a good father, but her. It didn't make sense until she overheard a mutual acquaintance at a gala. Alex wants to show her what she's missing. Rub her nose in it. Thinks she's still scraping by. Rage boiled, but Elena smiled. Let him think that. She RSVP'd yes, plotting her entrance. By now, Little Sparks was valued at $50 million. She'd bought a modest brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, but for this, she splurged, a custom Rolls-Royce, symbol of her triumph. The triplets, now 4 years old, were thriving, enrolled in a top preschool, speaking Spanish and English fluently thanks to Elena's heritage lessons. Preparation was meticulous. Elena worked with a stylist for a gown that screamed elegance, emerald green silk, hugging her curves, a nod to Alexander's eye color she'd once loved. The boys' suits matched, tiny bow ties included. Challenges arose. Nico had separation anxiety, clinging during fittings. Mommy, why do we have to see Daddy's new friend? He asked innocently. Elena knelt, eyes level. Because family is complicated, me Ama. But we're going to show the world how strong we are, together. Alexander, meanwhile, reveled in anticipation. At his bachelor party in Vegas, he boasted to friends, Elena's gonna show up in some thrift store dress, looking pathetic. It'll be the highlight. Victoria laughed along, though unease flickered in her eyes. She knew the triplets existed but dismissed them as baggage. Chapter 4. The Wedding Day. The day dawned crisp in New York, autumn leaves swirling like confetti. Alexander stood at the altar, tuxedo impeccable, Victoria radiant in a $100,000 Vera Wang. Guests included CEOs, celebrities, politicians, the cream of society. The ceremony was minutes away when the Rolls-Royce arrived. Elena's entrance was cinematic. Heads turned as she stepped out, the boys in tow. Gasps rippled. Is that Elena Vasquez, the app mogul? Whispers grew. Alexander's face paled. Victoria's smile faltered. The triplets waved excitedly. Hi, Daddy. Breaking the tension with innocent joy. The ceremony proceeded awkwardly, Alexander stumbling over vows. At the reception, Elena mingled gracefully. Old acquaintances congratulated her. Beatrice approached, stiff. You've done well. Elena replied coolly, thanks to what your son taught me. Never rely on anyone but yourself. Confrontation peaked when Alexander cornered her near the bar. What is this? Some stunt? His voice slurred from champagne. Elena met his gaze. You invited me to disgrace me. But look around, Alex. I'm not the one disgraced. The triplets ran up, hugging her legs. Alexander knelt, but they shied away, sensing the rift. Tears welled in his eyes. Regret, perhaps. Chapter 5. Resolutions and New Beginnings. Post-wedding, ripples spread. Media exploded. Ex-wife steals the show at billionaire's wedding. Alexander's marriage to Victoria soured quickly. She filed for divorce within a year, citing his emotional unavailability. He sought therapy, reaching out to Elena for co-parenting counseling. Slowly, bridges mended, not for romance, but for the boys. Alexander became a better father, attending soccer games, learning their favorite stories. Elena thrived. Little sparks went public, making her a billionaire. She expanded globally, focusing on women's empowerment programs. Javier proposed on a quiet Brooklyn Bridge walk. She said yes, building a blended family rooted in trust. The story's message: resilience transforms pain into power. No matter how deep the betrayal, your worth isn't defined by others. Rise, rebuild, and let your success be the sweetest revenge. Post-wedding, the media storm hit like a New York blizzard, fierce, unrelenting, and impossible to ignore. Headlines screamed across tabloids and reputable outlets alike. Billionaire heir humiliated at own wedding by ex-wife's epic glow-up. From rags to Rolls-Royce, single mom of triplets steals the show, and Elena's personal favorite from the New York Post. Harrington's revenge backfires spectacularly. Viral videos of her entrance, the Rolls-Royce gleaming under the venue lights, the triplets waving like little princes, racked up millions of views overnight. TikTok exploded with recreations, women stitching her story with captions like, "When he thinks you're broken but you built an empire instead." Elena woke the morning after in her Brooklyn Heights brownstone, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows onto the king-sized bed where Lucas, Mateo, and Nico had piled in some time before dawn. Their small bodies were tangled in the sheets, breathing soft and even. She lay there for a long moment, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the regret to hit. It never came. Instead, there was only a quiet, fierce satisfaction, like the first deep breath after surfacing from deep water. Her phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. Notifications from investors, interview requests from Good Morning America and The View, congratulatory texts from old friends she hadn't spoken to in years. Javier had sent a simple voice note at 2 a.m. I watched the clips. You looked like a queen, mi reina. Proud doesn't even cover it. Breakfast when you wake up. She smiled, pressed the phone to her chest, and whispered, soon. But the day demanded action. Elena slipped out of bed, careful not to wake the boys, and padded downstairs to the kitchen. The brownstone was everything the old queen's apartment hadn't been. Open, airy, filled with natural light and the scent of fresh coffee from the automated brewer she'd splurged on. She poured a mug, leaned against the marble island, and finally opened the message she'd been avoiding, one from Alexander. "Elena, can we talk? Please, just about the boys." She stared at the words longer than necessary. 5 years ago, a message like that would have sent her spiraling, hope, anger, longing all twisted together. Now it just felt tired. She typed back a single line. Co-parenting app. Schedule a visit there like always. Then she blocked his number for good measure. Boundaries weren't walls. They were oxygen. By noon, the boys were up, demanding pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Elena obliged, flipping batter while they chatted about the big fancy party from the night before. "Was Daddy surprised to see our cool car?" Matteo asked, syrup on his chin. "Very surprised," Elena said, wiping his face with a napkin. "Did he like our suits?" Lucas wanted to know, ever the observer. "I think he liked 'em a lot," she answered honestly. Nico just hugged her leg, quiet as always, but his small hand squeezed tight. That afternoon, Elena took them to Prospect Park. It was one of those perfect crisp fall days when the leaves crunched underfoot and the air smelled like possibility. They fed ducks, raced across the grass, and when the boys finally collapsed on a picnic blanket for snacks, Elena sat watching them, her heart so full it ached. Maria arrived with coffee and gossip. "Girl, you broke the internet." Victoria unfollowed everyone who reposted the video, including her own mother. They laughed until their sides hurt. But success brought new challenges too. Little Sparks' servers nearly crashed from the surge in traffic. Thousands of new sign-ups from women inspired by her story. Elena spent evenings in virtual meetings with her team, scaling infrastructure, hiring more counselors, expanding the scholarship fund. She refused every brand deal that felt inauthentic. No weight loss teas, no divorce glow, skincare lines. Her empire would stay rooted in purpose. Alexander, meanwhile, unraveled in slow motion. Victoria moved out of their Upper East Side penthouse within weeks, taking half the art collection and all the dignity he had left. Paparazzi caught him looking disheveled outside his office, dodging questions about the wedding. Harrington Enterprises stock dipped, not catastrophically, but enough for the board to notice. His mother Beatrice called Elena once, voice trembling with something that might have been regret. "I misjudged you," the older woman said stiffly. Elena's reply was gentle but firm. "You didn't just misjudge me, Mrs. Harrington. You helped break a family. But we healed anyway." She hung up before Beatrice could respond. Winter came, blanketing the city in snow. The boys turned 5 with a party at the brownstone. Superheroes theme, Javier dressed as Spider-Man, flipping pancakes onto plates with theatrical flair. He'd moved in quietly over the fall, his things appearing gradually, a toothbrush, then a drawer, then half the closet. The boys called him Javi now, and when Nico had nightmares, it was Javi's arms he ran to first. One snowy evening in December, Elena and Javier took the boys ice skating at Rockefeller Center. The tree glowed golden, tourists swirled around them, and the triplets wobbled on skates like baby deer. When Lucas finally managed to skate a full lap without falling, he threw his arms up in triumph, and Elena felt tears freeze on her cheeks, not from cold, but from the sheer overwhelming beauty of it all. Later, tucked into a cafe overlooking the rink, Javier pulled a small velvet box from his coat pocket. The boys watched with wide eyes as he knelt, not dramatically, just simply, the way everything good in Elena's life had finally become. "Elena Vasquez," he said, voice steady, "you taught me what strength really looks like. You built a life most people only dream of, and you did it with grace and love and fire. I don't want to be a spectator anymore. Marry me. Let's keep building together." The ring was vintage, rose gold with a single emerald, her favorite stone. She didn't even look at it long before nodding, laughing through tears as the boys cheered and strangers applauded. They married the following spring in a small ceremony at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, cherry blossoms raining down like confetti. The boys wore tiny linen suits again, this time scattering petals with pure joy. Maria was maid of honor. Even Alexander came, invited only for the children's sake, standing quietly at the back, eyes wet, clapping when it was over. Years passed in a blur of milestones. Little Sparks became a global foundation, opening centers in 20 countries. Elena spoke at the United Nations on women's economic empowerment. The triplets grew tall and kind. Lucas the scholar, winning science fairs, Matteo the athlete, soccer star of his school, Nico the artist, sketching portraits that captured souls on paper. Alexander remarried eventually, to a quiet librarian who loved books more than cameras. He became the father Elena had once begged him to be, present, apologetic, consistent. They never became friends, but they became something better, respectful co-parents who put their children first. And Elena, she stood on the balcony of the home she and Javier had built together, an eco-friendly haven overlooking the Hudson, one warm summer night, watching fireworks over the city with her family gathered close. The triplets, now teenagers, argued good-naturedly about college choices. Javier's arm was around her waist, solid and warm. She thought back to that shattered champagne flute at Alexander's wedding, the moment everything changed. Back then, she'd been fighting to survive. Now, she was thriving beyond anything she'd dared imagine. The strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so undeniably whole, so radiant in your own light, that anyone who ever tried to dim you is left blinking in the brilliance of what they lost. Elena kissed the top of Nico's curly head, then Matteo's, then Lucas's. She turned to Javier, smiled the smile of a woman who had turned every scar into a star. And in that moment, under the vast New York sky, she knew the story wasn't over, it was just beginning. Again, and again, and again. As many times as it took to keep rising. Because some women don't just survive betrayal. They transcend it.